Hello, everyone. I think I am live for the first time ever in my life, which is a bit weird. Let's start with the first technical checks. I hope that you can hear me and you can also see me well. I see. Okay, let me familiarize also with YouTube live stream because I've never done it before. I see the chat here. Oh, that's already a message from Trent. And I also see some people live already. So this tells me that I'm indeed live. But if you can confirm, if you can hear me or and see me, everything's working perfectly. Oh, thanks so much, Andras. I hope that I pronounce your name well. Thank you for confirming. And also, thank you. Looking at something good. Oh, that's great. I mean, I was so scared that for some reason something was not going to work. We can hear well. Okay, thank you so much. Everything good in here? Okay, perfect. Also, thank you for using the chat. If you want, you can also type where you're writing from, because I know that quite a few people are who follow me are international. I hope that this time was a good time for most of the people. I know that right now perhaps was a bit too late in Australia, but I hope that yeah, people from Europe and also people from the Americas were able to join during this time. And if the live goes well enough, depending on how it goes, I will also save it so it will also be available. Hungarian from Denmark at the moment, but I live in Norway. Oh, interesting, interesting moving around. Hey, Darren, Chiara from North Carolina, USA. Okay, so there, I imagine that it's still quite early in the day, right? Here it's 8 p.m. But thank you so much. I see also an hi from Giacomo. Hello, Giacomo. I'm not sure. Maybe you're Italian. Maybe you're not. Yes, Giacomo from Firenze. Ciao, Giacomo. It's nice to see some Italian people also around. Okay, it's nice that I see you here, and thank you so much for joining me in this time. I know that everyone is so busy, but I really thought that it was somewhat wanted really to try doing a live. As I said, I've never done a live, and I'm not sure why actually. I've been on Instagram for a long time. The reason why I decided to try here on YouTube is that Instagram sometimes is not very reliable. Where we're going to talk about Instagram tonight, but also my mobile is a bit laggish. At this time, so I didn't want to risk it. So I said, let's just try to use YouTube. Also, because yeah, with the laptop, I just feel that I have somewhat more control on the experience. So let's see how it goes. So as you know, the topic of today conversation would be a very casual, informal conversation. Of course, it would be about Instagram and specifically Instagram for wildlife photographers. Of course, many of the things that I'm going to say are actually applicable to other fields of photography. So no matter if you're just specific on wildlife photography or perhaps you're also interested in other fields, some of the observations, let's say, about Instagram are actually very general and can be applicable to basically everyone who has an account on Instagram. But I will also try to be more specific because we are wildlife photographers, and there are some specific elements regarding this connection between being a wildlife photographer on Instagram nowadays. So at the end of 2023, what I will be doing tonight will be basically answering all the questions that I received in the past few days. I've been talking also about Instagram on Instagram quite a bit because I enjoy social media. I like creating content, but I also understand the struggles and also the challenges that comes on being on social media. And this is why I initiated on different points conversations with you guys, mainly on Instagram, but also via the newsletter. I received some other questions. So the aim is really just to answer. these questions, and you will see that some of them really were connected to each other. So we will go through these major points, covering, for example, the beast in the room called the algorithm, but also I received many questions about why people don't see content on Instagram, as well as why it is so difficult to grow. And also another big topic will also become, of course, reels, which is kind of the hottest topic on Instagram already now for a year. I see another message. Hi from UK. Big fun. Thank you. Instagram has its concept pros as a wildlife and landscape photographer. That's absolutely true. So the reason why I'm on Instagram is that basically I think that, as many of you, I started on Instagram already about 3 years ago. I opened my account. The major reason why I used Instagram was that it was a platform that I was already familiar with. So I already had another account, which is only a private account nowadays. So, the typical account that I think was most used way for Instagram in the past year. So maybe until 3 to 4 years ago, largely people were using Instagram just to share their photos and just stay in touch with family and friends. But then what happened is that in the past few years, really, there's been a huge change in the way people use Instagram, as well as consume content, but as well in terms of creating content. So back in the days, I was just sharing my bird photos. I just started, and I was sharing them on my private account, and I started seeing that my family and friends were not liking them anymore, which I think was reasonable, because they got bored basically of just seeing all my photos, which were also pretty bad to begin with. So that's when I started to think, yeah, maybe I just need an account only about wildlife photography. Although actually at the beginning I was also sharing other stuff. I even got a start with landscape, actually, which is a bit weird to think nowadays. I very quickly put that on a side. But this is a bit of the background. So to cut the story short, I stayed on Instagram in the past 3 years on my account. And in the past 3 years, I must say that I've been extremely, extremely consistent. I think that in the past 3 years, perhaps the longest time that I spent outside of Instagram without posting anything, perhaps has been maybe 3 weeks, 1 month. That's the maximum, which is also a bit crazy if you think about it. That's a lot of work that I put on the platform. But as we will see also later on, consistency is actually one of the key elements on Instagram. When I say consistency, I'm not saying that you should post every day. That's really not sustainable for most of the people, for most of us actually. But consistency is just having a certain schedule. It can be, posting only once per week. It can be twice per week, 3 times per week, whatever works for you. But that consistency really, really helps in just giving some signals to Instagram that you are kind of a good creator. So we can get started officially with the questions that I received. But then, of course, also as a reminder, as you're live and you decided to spend this time with me, of course, your questions will get the priority. So if I see anything in the chat, that will become well, that will definitely be addressed immediately during the live. And also, if you have any comments or any thoughts, also other views regarding what I say, of course, please feel free just to leave a comment, because for as much as I like this, as I like to talk, I would like this to be more of an interactive session. This is why I'm doing the live. So I look forward also hearing your thoughts and opinions about the different topics that we are going to touch. So let's start with one of the major questions that I received by many of you regarding the algorithm. So I have my notes in here where I noted all your questions and also the major points that I wanted to touch today. And I see some questions like, Chiara, I really don't understand the algorithm. Or also I see, I want more likes, but I don't get those. Why I don't reach people? So basically, all of these these questions really fall into one simple understanding, which is the understanding of the algorithm. So to start with, I think that there's lots of false myths that are behind this algorithm. And I also think that in many cases, this algorithm is now seen as an enemy. So it's like you as a photographer, you as a creator are actually working against the algorithm. Or on the other hand, it's a bit like you are desperate to be seen by the algorithm. But in reality, the algorithm is not our enemy. And I think that a lots of all these thoughts and beliefs just come from a simple place of not knowing enough about how it works and actually what it is. So I will try tonight just to explain a bit what's behind the algorithm. And the first thing that I actually should say is that there's not one single algorithm. So it's already wrong to say, Chiara, the algorithm doesn't like my work, because in reality, there are different algorithms that are working at all time on Instagram. And there's one specific algorithm that will determine the type of things you see on your feed. There will be another algorithm that will decide what you see on the Reels tab. And there will be even another algorithm that will decide on the stories order. So you see already that there are actually three different algorithms, and each one of these actually works slightly different in terms of what it will do. So just to really summarize, at the end of the day, what's an algorithm? The algorithm is just a set of ranking processes. So basically, what happens is that this algorithm will try to rank your content. So, for example, if I open Instagram, the order, and I go on my feed tab, the order of the things that I will see, that will be established by the algorithm. So the algorithm is this set of processes for which it will basically determine which piece of content I will be more likely to be interested in. So at the end of the day, the algorithm is just an educated guess to try to make our experience on Instagram more personalized. This is really how Instagram itself talks about it. So the idea that then the question comes, then how this algorithm will decide what do you see first or what you don't see at all. It basically just relies on the signals that we leave on the app itself. So for example, whenever you open Instagram, whenever you scroll on your feed post, there will be some elements that the algorithm will interpret to then make the prediction for next time you're on the app. And in terms of the signals, these are something very simple to understand. For example, if you scroll and then you stop on a post, for example, you have even the time that you spend looking at a post. Then you have the most commonly used signals, also the ones that people tend to stress a bit more about, which are the very measurable quantities like the number of likes, the number of comments, the number of saves, and also the number of shares. All of these are signals that the algorithm will use then to make prediction for the next time you visit the app. But then, for example, if we move to the stories, also there, surely you would have noticed that whenever you open the app, there will always be someone who is on the first part of the stories. So, of course, the first people are the more likely you will see the stories of, because of course you don't have lots of time. So the first stories are the ones that the app thinks you will be more interested in watching, and by what the app makes the decision, mostly based on your previous history with that account. So, for example, if that person is a person and you always watch the stories of this person, if you always interact with the stickers of this person, or for example, another very important element for the stories is also if you interact via direct message with that person. All of these are signals that will then very likely put this person always in front also the next time that you are on the app. So all of these are the, let's say, the background information that the algorithm processes. So at the end of the day, it's of course it's not something that is published, it's not something that is under your control, but the algorithm really just tries basically to makes its best job in trying to predicting what you will be interested in. Now, I think that the major reason of frustration is not the algorithm itself, but the fact that at the end of the day, not all your content will be seen by all of your followers. So this is also something that I received as a message, like Chiara, why not even 10% of my followers see my content. So I understand this is definitely a big element of pain on Instagram right now. So what we're seeing overall, this is not just my data, these are data collected across all industries on Instagram, is that with the years passing by, every year, basically, there is a decrease in reach for every single account. So there's actually an increasing number of active users on Instagram. So whatever people are saying that Instagram perhaps is dying, yes, that's perhaps might be true for other reason. Actually, there are still quite a few people on the platform, and the numbers are actually increasing. But on the other hand, the reach for every single person is decreasing. And why is that? So here, I think that there are two major reasons. The first reason is just connected to what I was saying at the beginning of the live regarding now the different way people are using Instagram. So before, people were just maybe wanting to connect with their family and their friends, and they were more on the consumer side of the app. But nowadays, what we're seeing is really the transitioning from consumers to actually creators. What does it mean is that basically every day there will be new people that join the app. And these people also want to share their work, which is of course fair. I think that most of us are actually on Instagram because we like to share our things and we would like to reach more people with our work and with what we do. But then this is just a pure mathematical problem, because if you have just a certain number of people on the app, and at a point everyone starts creating content, you will understand that it's like the app will have to decide which content to put in front of those limited eyes first. This is because if you just think about it, sometimes I see on Instagram people that follow 2,000 people, 3,000 people, 4,000 people. Do you think that it's really reasonable to think that this person who follows this amount of people really has time to watch all the content produced by all those people? That's absolutely not possible. Even assuming that the person literally spends the 24 hours time scrolling on Instagram, the time is just limited, and the number of content is currently overwhelming because everyone is putting out new content literally every day. So there's no way today that all of your followers could see all of your content. So I think this is just the bottom line. Uh, we just have to accept things as they are right now. So when you say, not all my followers see my content, I know that, and I think that that's actually now normal, and we just have to accept that as part of the game, partially because there's so many people on Instagram, everyone is trying to create content, and this just means lots and lots and lots of competition. So this is also why it's much then harder currently to grow on Instagram versus what it was a few years ago. So I think that if someone started a wildlife photography page just let's say 4 years ago, but even 3 years ago, I think that back then would have been much easier to grow on Instagram. It's like the level bar is going upper and upper as we speak, basically. Because of course, what happens is that whenever there is a new feature or whenever there is a new advancement in photography, like someone will take over for a bit, and then what will happen is that of course all the other people will quickly catch up, and this pushes the bar higher and higher and higher, meaning that then it's very easy for people who are more of casual Instagram user to keep up with all the new features and all the changes and all the new trends. I think that in this case it's inevitable to really to really make you understand that it is true that Instagram can be hard at times and it requires time to stay on top of all the changes. This is true, and I have to admit it. Again, it's not something that I learned overnight. It's not something that I my account definitely didn't grow overnight. Actually, I almost never had a super viral reel in all these years. My growth has just been pretty steady, slow but steady, I must say. But I also understand that there's really a lot of effort than people put into Instagram, or at least personally, I can share with you that I put lots of effort on Instagram in terms of understanding how it works, in terms of optimizing my account, in terms of really researching social media strategies and how it works. So I totally get that, for someone who doesn't have maybe time even just to get more into all these elements, it can be overwhelming. But at the end of the day, my advice is that if you really want to grow on Instagram, it's definitely worth it to put some effort in trying to understand Instagram. Because again, as I mentioned before, you can't expect anymore just to grow just because you have good photos. I wish that was the case, because I know that now people will come at me say, Chiara, but we're photographers. If I have a good photo, I should then grow on Instagram. And again, here there's the all the topic that I was touching before of the bars. Maybe 5 years ago, having a very good photo portfolio was enough to get you going on Instagram and make you really popular on Instagram. Today, having a good photo is not enough anymore. And here, perhaps I would also argue that sometimes, even in the field of wildlife photography, actually having good photos is not even a pure requirement anymore to be successful on Instagram. This is a bit sad. This is something that saddens me a bit, because on the other side, I really think that photography should come first anyway, because if we're wildlife photographers, but the reality is that actually Instagram is was never thought as a photo app. I mean, it was thought as a photo app in the sense that the idea was that you could share the photo, but it wasn't thought as a major photography platform. There were other social media that were thought for that. Instagram was born more with the idea of creating connection with people, and I think that the bottom line is still that one. So creating connection. So actually today, um, good photography is not all it takes to be successful on Instagram itself. Unfortunately, that's not the case anymore. And perhaps now, I think that the other big question was about the topic of reels. This is something that I also get a lot. People complaining about reels being prioritized by the algorithm. Or I also got the comment of someone saying that this person doesn't make reels, so it feels like she can't grow her account without making reels. And I understand Reels have created quite a big change on Instagram with the introduction of Reels. But again, talking about false myths, I think that again, it's just lack of information. But today, the algorithm actually doesn't really favor Reels that much. So let me explain a bit what happened. In 2022, definitely totally the algorithm was favoring reels. So in 2022, if we were preparing reels and if the reels were just averagely good, you could have made a very good growth on Instagram. This was until 2022. Then what happened is that there was a very big movement on Instagram, lots of people complaining. Actually, many photographers left Instagram back then. So, what Instagram did was actually taking a step back. And at the beginning of 2023, I believe, actually the CEO of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, is actually on Instagram. He has an account. So if you're interested, I suggest you to follow him because sometimes he does these Q&A sessions and he gives some more insight about the algorithm and stuff. So if you're interested, just check his account, even if you don't want to follow him. But anyway, what he did was actually admitting in public that the Instagram made a mistake in 2022 because they gave too much power to Reels. So they understood the message that the algorithm definitely was too unbalanced back then. So what they did, they just kind of rebalanced the algorithm. So in 2023, this is my feeling overall, but also for based on not only my personal results, but also based on what I see on my feed. I think that the algorithm in 2023 has been much more balanced, actually. I think that we saw again an increase in reach versus the previous year for the photos, and especially the carousels are doing pretty good. So the carousel is basically just when you post more than one photo, or of course, it can also be images. So, for example, if you're making kind of a slideshow, those are doing pretty okay because indeed the algorithm has been rebalanced. Now, I still believe that reels are very important to grow, but again, it's just a false myth that today reels are really prioritized by the algorithm. And actually, before the live, what I did was a little experiment, which I've never done before. So basically, because I was seeing all these comments, all the questions, like, oh, why do I see only reels, or there were also many questions about or complaints about seeing sponsored content. I said, let me run a test. So I just went on my Instagram, and for 5 minutes straight, I scrolled my feed, which is really longer than usual because personally, I don't spend that much time scrolling on Instagram. I'm much more on the creating side, and I don't consume much content. So this time I just said I'll put the timer and I'll just scroll for 5 minutes. And I was taking notes of what I was seeing. This was on my feed tab, so I was not on the Explorer, I was not on the Reels. It's really my feed tabs, and the results were somewhat in line with what I had just as a perception. So without making this exact test, of course I had to make the test also with the numbers because anyway I am a scientist, so I want to see the data to also to share them with you and for them to be more reliable. So interestingly, out of all the posts that I scrolled in the 5 minutes, so again, these are the posts, basically posts, reels, whatever, that Instagram thought I could be more interested in. So these were all ranked posts, of course, and Instagram chose to show me those pieces of content. So the larger percentage of content that I've seen on my feed were actually photos posts. I didn't separate between a single post or carousel, but anyway, 37% of what Instagram showed me on my feed were actually posts coming from people I follow. So these were really people I decided to follow, and these were pieces of content coming from people I'm currently following. So 37%. So after that, then what about the reels? So for the reels here, it's interesting because for the reels, I only saw 10% of reels from people I already follow. So you see already a difference. So for coming from people I follow, I saw 37%, these were posts, 10% were actually reels. So this is already a big difference, and we will come back to this part. So we are in total about 47%. So about half of the content I saw was coming from people I decided actively to follow. So what about the rest? So here is where the thing becomes a bit more interestingly, because the other 50% was actually almost equally split between suggested reels. So the suggested reels, these were 25%, so quite a big chunk. These were reels that came from people I don't follow. So now this also has been a change compared to before. If you go now on your home, on your feed, the main feed, the home tab, how do you want to call it? What you will see is actually now a mixture of content that comes both from people you follow, but also from people you don't follow yet, but that the algorithm thinks you might be interested in. So what's very interesting in this data, I think that indeed, although the majority of the content was coming, like almost 50% was coming from people I follow, 25% was actually reels from people I don't follow. And why this information is also important is also important because it proves another point, which is that today, currently, as I'm speaking now, because as you know, Instagram changes a lot. So what I'm saying might not be true in 1 week. But as we stand today, Reels are still the best format to grow, so to reach new audiences, because as you can see, it's much easier for a reel to be pushed to new audiences. And this is basically another thing when compared to posts. So posts and carousels, on the other hand, are more likely to be seen by your followers, but they are less likely to be pushed out of the people who already follow you. So this is already a big point. And then I think that what shocked me the most is that the remaining part, the remaining 25%, was actually sponsored content. And here it's where I was also surprised, because I received your comments about, there's all these junk sponsored ads, and I kind of didn't perceive that it was so much. I think that, yeah, maybe it's because I don't scroll actually that much my Instagram, or it's also because inevitably, my mind immediately skips the content if I see the sponsored thingy there. But actually, 25% is quite a lot. Like, it's a quarter of the content that I was shown today by Instagram was sponsored. So this was a surprise. So thank you for the people who mentioned the sponsoring things, because otherwise I would have not looked into it. Regarding the sponsoring, I don't think that sponsoring, unless, I don't know, you are a brand or you have a very specific goal on Instagram, I don't think that for the general user, for the casual wildlife photographer, sponsoring really works. Actually, I think that most of the times that I see sponsored content, either I just don't care about it at all. I just immediately skip it. Sometimes I go on the accounts just to have a look. And in most cases, I just don't think it was the right choice to put money to try to get some extra reach. I think that also the sponsoring of these small accounts that sometimes I see, also that comes from this idea that today, as it is so hard to reach new people, then you have to pay. I think that was also something that a general thought was that really Instagram was imbalancing the algorithm a lot to try to force people to pay. I don't think that that's really the case, because I think it's still possible to grow on Instagram organically. So growing organically means literally growing without making any sponsored content, so without paying. I think that that's still possible, but there's still this idea that perhaps today the only way to grow is by paying, which I really don't think it's the case. And I really see it, I think, using ads in the wrong way. But anyway, coming back to the general results of my small experiment. Again, I think that if we put aside the surprise of having 25% sponsor content, that's definitely a lot. That's definitely something that I also don't like about Instagram. For the rest, indeed, you can see that there's indeed a big difference between the posts and the reels, and also between having the what's coming from people you follow already and people you don't follow. So this was also a way to answer people who say, if I post a photo, that photo is not shown. That can be true, of course, because there is indeed the ranking. So then is the algorithm that will decide if your photo is shown only to 10% of your followers, or I don't know, 20%, or to all of your followers. That's extremely, extremely unlikely. Um, but in principle, it's possible. So it's not the algorithm itself that is deciding to hide your content from people. Um, I think that I think wait, I'm seeing now a question. Sometimes on the homepage I see sponsored posts from users I already follow. I don't think they pay for these. No, I think they do pay. Whenever you see sponsored on Instagram, it means that they pay. I also get from people I follow already, because the sponsor, you don't do the sponsoring only to get new followers. You also get the sponsoring to get more interactions on your posts. So I think that this is why sometimes for some ads, also people who already follow that person, they are already are still targeted by the ad. Or this is what I think. But anyway, what I really wanted to highlight is that I think that first of all, we all have to recognize that at times it's not the algorithm that's evil. I hope that you're not going to hate me for this, but I really think that everyone should also just do a tiny bit of self-critique. Not too much, because that's bad. But I think that that's already a very good starting point. So try not to see the algorithm as this enemy, as this evil beast that is actively trying to work against you, but taking a step back, trying to understand this algorithm, and also trying to understand, based on your new knowledge on the algorithm, what you can do differently to improve your content. Because as I mentioned before, unfortunately, having a good photo is not enough. So, for example, I also get a lots of questions about why an account doesn't grow. So, when we talk about growing, it means basically that the follower count goes up. So that's the one of the major, let's say, measurable goal that you can have for your Instagram, of course. But why an account doesn't grow? Of course, there are many reasons. Of course, it's different from one account to another. Without knowing your exact situation, of course, I can't say. But of course, one of the reason could be that your content doesn't get is not seen enough by new people. So in this case, of course, it can be that, for example, this person doesn't make reels. I'm not saying again that reels is a strict requirement, but we've seen, based on the data, but also based on the overall Instagram trend right now, reels is the easiest way to grow, because more likely reels will be pushed in front of new people. So for example, if your account doesn't grow, it might be that indeed you don't produce content which is good for new people. Why I'm saying good content that is good for new people is because actually sometimes we have this a bit simplistic view on Instagram, a bit like, oh yeah, I have Instagram, these are my followers, this is the content. But then actually, if you think about it, on Instagram you have at the same time very different people, very different type of followers. Because for example, you have a new person who's never hit the follow button, but perhaps it ended up on your account, perhaps because of a reel, or because someone else shared some of your content. So this is a new person that comes on your account for the first time. And then you also have many other type of followers. You will have the, let's say, the new followers who maybe recently joined your account. They just recently started to follow you, so they really don't know you. So in reality, maybe these followers don't know you, don't really care about you yet at that time. And then with time passing, actually the relationship with the followers changes. So I'm sure that you all have also followers, or people you've been in contact for much longer. I'm completely sure I have on my Instagram people that I started following basically the very moment I open my Instagram account, and I know I follow them for all these years. So these are literally people that basically I've been following for 3 years. They've been following me for 3 years now. So you understand that those people have a different connection with me when compared to a new follower. So for example, when you say my account doesn't grow, of course it can be that you just don't get enough people visiting your account. That's a possibility. But then the biggest reason, I think that this is where most of the accounts lose their chances to grow, is actually not having an account that is clear enough to make the person stay. So I very often end up on these accounts because maybe I saw a photo that was on my feed, because Instagram thought, oh, maybe you are interested in this photo. And then if I am, what I will do, I will go to the person's account, because I said, yeah, the photo was nice. Maybe I'm interested in the work of this person. So I go on the account, and that's where the disconnect is. It's when really there is what's in Instagram terms is called lack of conversion. So the conversion is basically literally how many of the people who come to your account then become followers. So ideally, you want all the people who end up on your account for one reason or another. So it can be by reels, it can be because, I don't know, a friend of yours just say, oh, check this person on Instagram. Ideally, you want all the people who end up on your account to become your followers. But that's really not the case. It's physiological, and not all the people will become your followers, because some of them will just end up on your account just by chance, and then they figure that they're not really interested in what you're doing. But on the other hand, I think there's a big group of people who miss the opportunity just because their profile is not clear enough. When I say clear enough, I'm referring to very basic pieces of informations, like, I don't know, your nickname, or having your name, or even your bio. What's written in that part is actually critical, because that's literally the only thing, the only elements that a person would use to make the decision if he, she, they want to follow you. So you really have just those few moments. You have that. You have your actually, you also have your profile picture. So you have your nickname, you have your name, you have your bio, and then you also have other elements in your account, because then of course the person will very likely scroll, and you will see, okay, what's in the highlights of this person. And then of course then we'll move to the feed, and you will see, and you will look at the photos, and then all of these elements will eventually make this person decide whether it's worth it or not to follow you. So the first here, really the biggest tip that I can give to anyone who's trying to build an Instagram account is to try to look a bit um, more in detail to your profile itself, like all these little elements, in terms of trying to optimize them, because that's literally the first things that a new person will look, and the few things that this person will judge, and eventually decide to follow you or not to follow you. And I think that here also one of the major message that I wanted to share with you is that it should be very clear what's your goal on Instagram. I think that it's really unclear for many, and then this lack of clarity also is also just very apparent on the account itself. So for example, if I go on an account because I saw a photo that I like, and then I say, let me check this account, and then I open this account, and the bio, I don't know, it just doesn't communicate anything. I don't understand what this person wants to do. I don't understand what's the goal of this account, and then I start to scroll, and I see a bunch of very different type of content, um, that can potentially become a no for a person in regards to take the decision to follow you or not. I know that in this case it's a bit of a difficult topic, because I also know that many people like to, for example, they like to create very different content. They like different fields of photography. So I also don't want to, say, oh yeah, you should really find your specific thing you do and do only that, because I think that this is limiting. But I also want you to understand that then it becomes more difficult for a person to decide whether to follow you or not. Because normally when people use Instagram, they use it because they have a very specific interest. So it can be wildlife photography, it can be landscape photography, or it can also be for, I don't know, a person who uses Instagram to find inspiration for new recipes. But anyway, this is the new way Instagram is currently used, so it's to get a very specific thing I'm interested in. So the moment then I enter in an account which is not clear in what the purpose is, and I don't understand what's the core, at least the core of that account, I think that that's more likely that people will decide not to follow you. And I know this is not ideal, because I also understand people, it's absolutely fair that you guys like to photograph many things, and you can do wildlife next to landscape, next to people and wedding and architecture. And I understand that it's easier to manage one account rather than one for every of the different fields. But I have to be honest. I mean, I decided to do this live to just share my insight about what I learned in the past few years. And I think that having a sort of specialization, or having an account which is more focused, is much more likely to work in terms of growing an account. Then if you say, no, I want to share it all, that's also fair. But then you have to understand that growing will be much, much harder, perhaps nearly impossible, given the amount of competition that's out there, and also given how much the bar is going higher and higher as we speak. Regarding this bar, another good example is reels again. So if we think about reels in 2022, basically it was enough to do a random reel, and there were super high chances that the reel could do very well in terms of views. So bringing many new people on your account who potentially would become your followers if you have a nice optimized profile. But today the bar is much higher. So I think that you already realize that also the quality of reels is getting higher and higher all the time. So for example, now many people already started using softwares to prepare reels. So they don't do it on their mobile anymore, but they use the actual video editing softwares that of course are much more powerful. They have many more tools. You see also the editing techniques have gone really, really fast in terms of all the tricks that people do in videography. So again, this really resonates that I think it's definitely hard to keep up with all the changes and to keep up with the progress as well, because of course nowadays, then if you want to start making reels, of course you have to realize that, yeah, let's say the reels technology is already going a lot further and is going really, really fast. So it's harder to keep up, but it is still possible. And the other thing that I also read a lot in your comments was also about trends. I think that I've seen many people saying that you are tired of seeing real trends. And I must say, I'm not totally against trends. I do trends. I did not very recently, but I used to do trends. Sometimes they are funny. They make me laugh. And for the trends that I think I can transform into wildlife photography topics, I would definitely do them. They are not my favorite. I prefer to do more original content. But the thing is that I think that people started to feel basically almost forced to make reels, and doing a trend is much easier than producing original content, because yeah, the trend, as the name suggests, you already have the audio, you have the trend itself. Yeah, perhaps of course you have to record yourself or whatsoever. You will have to put your photos there, but it's much easier to produce. But I mean, I'm not a huge fan of creating content just for the sake of it. I think that no one should feel forced to make reels only because they are in trend. So anyway, if you think, I think I've seen a comment that was saying, oh yeah, the only way is to see these to repeat these trends. That's actually not true. Actually, I think that currently Instagram still favors more original reels. So it's not written anywhere that you have to do to make the trends. I also think that trends can be a bit cringe at times. um, but again, I'm no one to judge what a person decides to do. If you don't like a trend, you just skip the honestly just skip the content. I know that sometimes it's hard, especially when a trend really picks up, and then you keep scrolling, and then you have literally the same reel over and over again. That's really a bit annoying. But again, I don't think that trends are still a big thing on Instagram. So if you feel like you want to do them because they you like them, then to me it's still okay to also to produce that as a piece of content, but it's not a strict requirement. I think that it's much better on the long term to start using reels in a way that's good for you. I think that, of course, as many new things, there is a barrier at the beginning, because it's a new thing, and it's sometimes it's uncomfortable, because maybe you have to learn, because maybe you've never done it before, because you don't know where to start, you don't know which app is the best, you don't know how to edit a video. So I understand that, especially at the beginning, that's hard, that can be hard. um, but I also think that many could be surprised maybe if they just give it a go with reels, to see how it works. And I'm not saying, yeah, just try to make a reel and then all of a sudden you will have everything figured out and you will fall in love with making reels. I don't think that's how it works, not with reels, nor with anything in life. But just as a suggestion, I would definitely invite you to give it a go, or give it another go in case you tried it already and maybe you said, no, I gave up, that's not my thing. Just try it again. Maybe try another format. There's like the thing with reels, the reason why I like videos and then I started to make them is that reels are much wider in the sense of what you can do with that format. So when you have a photo, it's just a photo, you do the photo. When you have a video, there's literally so many things that you can do. And if the only thing you can do is the trend, I know we are all thinking about the trend of the wildlife photographer. um, Please let me know if you ever saw this type of video. I will just describe it to you. I am a wildlife photographer. I am in the middle of nature. And then what I do, surprise, surprise, is I lift my camera towards my eye and I pretend to take a photo. And at this point, a very quick slideshow of my photos start. So this is, I think, the most by far common type of reel that I see in the field. Um, and I think that everyone has seen at least one or perhaps 100 of these videos. And they're okay. It's an easy way to showcase your work in a video format. So maybe that's the first reel you have to do as a test. And if you produce this reel, next time, please tag me, because I want to see at least 90% of the wildlife photography reels I see is this. Yes, I know, I know. I'm joking a bit about it. I mean, I'm also guilty. I've done it a few times, but I also sometimes just just thinking about self-critique. As I was mentioned, I always go through my content and I say, okay, this is the reason why this didn't go well, this is the reason why I could improve. Then when I think about that thingy, I think that it's a very good strategy to grow, because it's very kind of eye catchy, basically. So it's exactly the type of content that works to be put in front of new people. Because why that type of reel works, this is maybe very easily to share. What's the reason why those reels work is that those are the ideal structure of a reel, because you have a very interesting visual element at the beginning. Normally you have the photographer, and why is it also more interesting? Because you have a human, so you have normally the person, you see the face, and normally reels with people work better. um, and then what you see is also something that it's interestingly as an element, because you see the camera. So why does reels work? If you will see the reels that have the those that type of reels that go more viral are the reels where the camera is the largest. This is, I'm sure about it. I mean, I didn't do an actual study on it, but I'm pretty sure that that's the case. It's because, of course, people who watch the reel are just attracted when they see this huge piece of a lens. They will be, oh, let me watch this. And then you just do a few tricks there. For example, having the slow motion moment, and then perhaps you have the fast music kicking in with the series of photos, and that's all it takes to create a reel that it's very engaging for a new viewer. And again, I think the only sad thing about all of this is that then the photos that you see in the reel itself are actually not that important. Let me see the comments. Are to be different and stand out. If you don't follow the trend, people do it because it's nice, but the more you tell the same joke, the less funny it gets. And that people don't see to do anything new, only these. I totally agree. This is why I'm also saying I also am now more into a phase of complaining about that style of reel. But I, I don't want to say, oh, please, guys, let's stop doing that. Because on the other hand, I think that it's also an easy format that people can start making reels with. So this is why, personally, I don't know, maybe I will still use it at a point, because again, it's a matter of also just understanding what works and not. So at a point, if I say, okay, I want to make a reel which is more likely to be seen by more people, then that format will work. Basically, I know that, but again, I also agree with you that at a point it becomes very boring. So I think that we already reached the point that it got boring. Regarding the other comment, it's hard to be different and stand out if you don't follow the trend. I think that that's actually the other way around. I think that if you follow the trend, then you just become like all the rest. It's actually not following the trend that makes you different, and stand out. So here, actually, the encouragement is to try to stand out with reels. If you like, you don't have to, as I mentioned before, you don't have to follow the trend. um, there are very different ways to make reels, and anyway, reels are still the best way to reach new people. It might be that if you have a slightly different format, it might be that you will not get viral. That's possible. It's unlikely maybe that your reel will get viral, but again, I think that virality is overrated. There are actually many downsides about going viral. I'll tell you one of the big mistake, one of the fun thing that happened. Uh, the first reel of mine that kind of went viral, but it was at the early stages of reels. And basically, that reel went semi-viral. I think it went to up to 100,000 views, and it got me a bunch of hundreds of new followers, and all of those people were absolutely not interested in what I was doing in wildlife photography. The mistake there is that that reel was not a reel about wildlife photography, but it was a reel that I made because I was organizing a contest, an editing contest. So basically, it was just a contest I organized online where people were all editing the same photo, and just to yeah, to tell people about the contest, I made that reel, and that reel became viral, I think, weeks after the contest ended. And I got all these new people following me, but they were not into wildlife photography. They were just interested because I was organizing and editing content, so they didn't care about the wildlife. So I spent hours and hours and hours to get rid of those people. So that's one of the reasons why virality can be bad. So if the wrong reel goes viral, it can actually become pointless. It can actually harm your account. The second reason is also that normally, if you have a big influx of people on your account, that's also when haters will come. So all the haters' comments are the ones that I get under my reels that do better in terms of reach. Of course, more reach, more people, more likelihood to get also very nasty comments. So that's also the second reason why virality is not perfect. What's a good reel like? Yeah, what's a good reel like? It's very hard, first of all, because not everyone likes the same reels. So this is also why the algorithm tries to predict, because what I consider a good reel might actually be not the same. But generally, in terms, let's say, of good practices in reels, so a good reel is a reel that has a hook. So the hook is literally the very first part of the reel. It's literally the very first few seconds that you have to grab the attention of the viewer. So the hooks can be both visual. So for example, if you have already a very unusual thing going on in the video itself, that's already a powerful hook, because it will already make people stop on the video, because they will be like, oh, what's this? Or, oh, I want to understand what's going on. But the hook can also just be the text. So using text on reels is very important normally, also because many people just watch reels without the audio. So if you add a text on the video itself, even if it's a video where you're talking, or a video where you're not even there, having a text that just kind of says what the video is about, but also this hook has can be written with some techniques. These are all techniques that are really taken from marketing. It's literally a marketing strategy. It's just a mixture of psychology to use some words that move the person, that will basically at that stage stop the viewer. Then of course you have the content itself, and that's the middle part of the reel, and that, yeah, can be very varied depending on what the reel is about, what's the format of the reel. Of course, if you're doing I don't know, a sequence of photos, or if you're doing a vlog, or if you're doing a talking video, or if you're doing a voiceover video, those are all different. The middle part of the reel will be very different. And then you have the end part of the reel, which is also very important, because in the end part, it's when you also have a big power, which is also, I think, something that many people are underestimating currently. So normally, people don't will not do an action unless you tell them to do it. So what happens is that you have to tell them what you want them to do. So for example, if you have a reel, and this reel was done already with the aim of reaching new people, so for example, you use the trend of raising your camera and showing your best photos, then in that case, a very easy thing is to write either as a text in the end of the reel, or on the caption of the reel, to add as what's called a call to action, that you encourage people to follow you. That's very easy. I know that I think that at the beginning I was really kind of thinking, oh no, it's very bad for me to ask to follow me, or no, I don't want to ask questions, because I think also a lot I was not asking questions because I was so scared that people would have not answered. So I was not saying to people to comment, for example, or to save a certain content. but actually that's very important for you to clearly say what you want the person to do. And it's actually crazy then how many people will start doing actions just because you tell them. It's just, again, also this is a very just a psychological a technique basically. So next time try also to add a call to action. This is not just for reels, it's also for posts. So I don't know, if you write a caption and you have a story and you want people to comment, then you should write a call to action that encourages people to comment. So it's not just, yeah, comment the photo. I have to know what you want me to comment about. So for example, you're leaving a question, you're asking a question, or perhaps you want me to take part in the discussion if perhaps you wrote something interesting, a new topic. So it's very important to actually invite people to do action. So that can be the, like, or comment or save or even the share, although it's much more difficult to encourage people to share your content. How can you rerun a reel if you haven't had enough response? What do you mean by rerun? You mean reposting it? So in the meantime, like, if you want to explain more about the question, like, in principle, if a reel didn't have success as you wanted, the first thing is to try to understand what went wrong. It's very likely, again, I know that I said it before, but it's important to do this kind of self critique, because for every piece of content, in most of the cases, I'm able to afterwards, if I put it out and the post or the reel doesn't perform as I thought, afterwards I'm pretty sure I'm able to understand what went wrong. So this you can also do it with reels. So the moment you have a reel that doesn't go as well as you thought, the first thing to do is just watch the reel again and understand if there were things that could have been improved. So it can be that, for example, the hook maybe was not in there, or if it was there, maybe it was the wrong hook or it wasn't strong enough. It might be that the caption was not convincing. It might be that you posted at the wrong time. That's also possible. So of course, in this case, if it's more of a technical mistake, like that it was posted in the wrong time, or I don't know, maybe because you uploaded when you didn't have enough internet connection, the quality is not good. In that case, it's definitely okay to repost reels. Like, actually, this is something that lots of people do all the time. I also occasionally repost my content again. If you're looking for votes on a number of photos, how can this be done? If you were looking for votes on the number of photos, I'm afraid I still don't understand. If you were looking for votes on the number of photos, how can this be done? If you want to add again, because I'm afraid I don't understand the question, apologies. But yeah, I was saying that anyway, for anyone making reels, if you had a reel that did well, on the other hand, um, I would not say just repost it again immediately, because yeah, that's also not nice. Some people are going to notice. I mean, they are not going to judge you if you repost it immediately, but again, I think it's not nice towards your followers. I think that it's okay if you repost it after months, when most of the people have anyway forgotten. But if you have a reel that works, what you can do is just try to replicate it. And when I say replicate it, it can be both replicate the format. So, for example, if you did a vlog, or I don't know, a behind the scenes of your latest shooting session, then it's worth it to replicate that top format, because maybe that. It means that your community, your people are enjoying the type of format, but it can also be perhaps the topic. So I don't know, for example, if you had a reel, and in this reel, again, you were talking about traveling, let's say, and you had lots of comments with people asking you about this trip.
for example, then it will totally make sense that you create new content on the same topic, perhaps just using, the comments that you received as ideas, or discussing other elements of the trip, because you know already that people are interested in that. Sometimes it's not about reinventing the wheels, or always looking for new content and new ideas and new information. Sometimes you can just use what you have already as information coming from your followers, and just see what the people liked and enjoyed, and you can just replicate it either in the type of format, or touching the same topic, or perhaps a similar topic in another angle. So if you were showing a number of photos and you wanted people to select the best 3 out of 6, you want to do this via reel. um I guess you can make this as a format, and then you can ask people either to comment to select the best 3 out of 6, so you can have kind of the slideshow of the different photos. Or now Instagram also added the poll option under the reels, so you can also potentially have your reel and then leave the poll in the caption, although I don't think that it's very used as a feature right now. I tested it and it's not been hugely successful. I have just over 100 followers. If I make a good reel, will it still be effective as if I had 5,000 followers? How much does the number of followers matters? So that's actually the beauty of reels. The number of followers really doesn't matter that much. So no matter how many followers you have already, your reel is going to be pushed anyway. I see all the time. This is I definitely tested this all the time. The reels that I'm shown, both on the reels tab and on my home tab, those come from accounts that are very small. So definitely, I think that the number of followers doesn't have an effect. So you're really likely to have reels that are seen. And actually, if you see in like the in percentage, it's very likely that your reels will have the same reach of an account that is already 10 times yours, basically, roughly. Because then what happens that the more an account grows, actually the lower the reach. So very interestingly, there will be situations like this one, where I think that your views will be roughly the same as an account that is much larger than yours. But no, absolutely not. Your reels will be effective. So this is why, again, the best strategy would be to use reels to grow your account. Of course, it's still not the only thing to do, because yeah, I think that I also already touched on this element. I also think that one of the let's say the mistake that many people do is only focusing on getting new followers. So for example, let's going back to the example of people who use always and always that reel of the photographer and then showing your best photos. Again, that's perfect to reach new people, and very likely, if the photos are good, people will see the reel, they will come on your account, and they will follow you. But then, if you just keep producing that type of content, you're basically actually not giving anything to the people who follow you. I think that this is when many people forget that you don't like only growing, only getting new followers is actually not the should not be the point of Instagram. I think that the point of Instagram at its core is actually creating a connection and ultimately creating a community. So the community is just the smaller percentage of your followers who are really close to you. So those are the people who really see your posts, they interact, they message you privately, they take part to the different initiatives. And I think that the overall goal is actually creating that community. And here I also want to make an example that you can have two accounts. One account has 5,000 followers and the other account is double, 10,000. But it's perfectly possible that the account with 5,000 followers has a much stronger community than the account that is double the size. So the person with 5,000 followers can have a community of 1,000, let's say. The person with 10,000 followers can have a non existent community. That's very possible, because for example, if I start follow you, and then all you do is posting the same reel all the time, with the photos that are always the same, because you always select just the best photos, so at a point they just start repeating, there's no way me as a new follower, I will actually start creating a connection with you, because what you're doing, you're just repeating your content, and you're basically just creating this new content to attract new people, but it's like you're just basically completely ignoring the people who have already started to follow you, and those people likely want to see something else, because they are already on your account, they've seen already that reel, they've seen already your best photos, so they are likely in need of something more. They would like maybe to learn more about you, about what you're doing, about your views and your perspective. So I think that this is also where many people fail, in understanding that it's not all about growing an account. It's not only, yeah, I want new followers, that's fair, it's a goal, but it's just one of the goal. I think that you should put like time in terms of investment, and in terms of type of content, not only think about the type of content that will bring you more followers, but you also have to think about the type of content that will just nourish the relationship with the people who already follow you, because that's, I think, in my opinion, that's even more important, because those will eventually be the people who will really start to support you. um, for Instagram, it is better to switch to short video versus photos or slideshows. I think, yeah, the point of all my discussion is actually that there's not the best thing. Depending on the goal, there is a format that's more likely to work. So if your goal is to grow in terms of number of followers, then reels, so short video format, is definitely the way to go. But as I was just saying now, if you want to grow that connection with the people who follow you already, then you have to give something more to them. And that's more easily done. For example, sharing new photos, or especially via stories. So stories is also very important to grow that connection with people, because it's where it's easier to get connected, because it's a bit of an informal communication. So it's a bit depending on the main goal, but remembering that these goals are not disconnected to each other. So ideally, at the same time, you're creating content to, let's say, make happy both of these aspects. So both to get new people, but also to just keep that relationship with the people already follow you. I really like this thought about followers versus community. Good point. Yeah, I think that people, it's very easy because you have the number on top of it, so it looks like that's the goal. But again, at a point, I really started to reflect on this. Of course, it's not that I never struggled with Instagram, and I often, I was really always looking at the numbers, and I was comparing myself with other accounts, and I was like, my account doesn't grow, or I wasn't growing as fast. As I mentioned before, I never had a really fast growth, because I barely had any viral content anyway. But then I started to understand that, yeah, that was at least for me, that was not the most important thing. I think that the most important thing was actually starting to see people coming over and over. And I think that then the most important thing was actually starting to realize that people were trusting me, and people were messaging me. I think that was when I started to realize, this matters. To me, it's much more important that I receive one private message with the person asking me a question, or with a person who wants an advice, or a person who just messaged me to thank me because I don't know of a piece of content I created. That single message is worth it way more than thousands of followers, honestly. The thousands of followers, that's a number, people are there, yeah, it's cool. It makes you, maybe you can brag about a huge number. Oh yeah, look, hi, I'm popular on Instagram. um, but yeah, to me that's not what really matters at the end of the day. But again, I don't want to be like fake. Of course, I also try to grow on Instagram. I also put out content that has that goal of reaching new people, to grow a following. I do that, but never losing that final goal, which is actually growing a community, which is very different and requires other type of content, and definitely not the trend of raising the camera and just showing the same old photos that we have all seen. um so I think that I don't see any new comment. Oh my goodness, I talked for 1 hour and 20 minutes. Is this a long live? Is this a short live? I literally don't know, because I've never done one. So we will say this is just an average live duration. I do message you and I know that you reply. I might say though that you are the only one like this on Instagram, of those I follow at least. Oh, that's well, again, I think that it's about priorities of people. I know that not everyone has the same goal on Instagram, perhaps as myself, but personally I think that we are on Instagram um, to share what we like and what we enjoy. So on my side, I also think that, although sometimes I struggle to stay on top of all the messages, I really do my best, because I feel grateful every single day for having people who decide to message me, because I know that time is very precious. And to me, to think that that person decided to spend those few seconds to message me, that's very important. And this is why I'm saying that that single message, those conversations that I have with you, they are definitely far more important of any viral reel. Honestly, for me it's fine to stay on Instagram and not having any single viral reel. I'm perfectly fine with it. I don't want to go viral again after my bad experiences. But yeah, that's the point. Chiara, do you have any birding trips planned in 2012 that we should look forward to? Hopefully yes. You mean for following my adventure even? For birding trips, it's a yeah, the thing is very complicated. I might go back to Helgoland next year. I might also go somewhere for the European bison, still in the plans, and there are still some unplanned trips. But there will be some birding trips. I think nothing too fancy, so don't expect me to go to again to Australia or to Costa Rica, because yeah, unfortunately I will have other things that will be on my plate next year. But if you seen the post, I also just I got admitted to a postgraduate course in wildlife conservation. So I will also have to do an internship next year. So I'm still trying to find to decide where to go and what to do. I will, of course, I would like to do a project where I can also use my photography. So I will also keep you posted about it. I will actually might also ask on Instagram if anyone has some ideas for places where to go. If you have any suggestion about conservation projects, about birds, of course. So yeah, thank you for reminding me. I'll definitely ask the question on Instagram. But otherwise, it's been fun. Again, this was my first live. I really didn't know how this was going to do. I was kind of scared at the beginning that yeah, I don't know. When you start doing new things, although I've done, I create content all the time, but I've never done a live, so this was something new, and I'm happy that I did, because I think it was fun. It's also nice to see the live comments. So based on this experience, I might decide to repeat this, perhaps on a different topic. But no reason to be scared. Your approach is a good job. Thank you so much for the feedback. Um, But regarding Instagram, to sum it up, guys, if you have any question, as we were just saying before, if you have any specific question, or even if you want, you have a more personal question about your account, I'm always happy to help. As I mentioned, sometimes it takes me a while to get back in touch, but I really try my best to get in touch with you all. So if you want to ask question, or if you want me to have a look at your account for a quick feedback, a quick review of your account, I'll be happy to do so. Just message me on Instagram, of course. Or if you want to talk about any of these points, I'm always happy to have more conversations about social media, because at the end we are on the platform, so it's worth it for us to invest time in understanding it. It's like, if you buy a camera, you always take time to understand the camera, because that's the way then you will be more able to use the tool. So if you're really serious about Instagram or about any social media, I advise you to invest some time in learning about the platform. And I know that that's other time that you have to put, and you're very busy. I know that, but it's worth it. I think in the long term is worth it to invest the time to understand it a bit more. There are very good resources, there are very good accounts of people who do that as a job. So everything I learned, I actually just learned it on Instagram itself, just following some people and reading around. So I also encourage you to do the same. But if you don't want to do it yourself and you just want tips, just message me and I'll be happy to give you some basic tips for your accounts. Are you going to make a photo review live? I've been waiting for one. Yes, there was the plans. This, and like in the plans, I wanted to do that before the end of the year. There was the other format that I really wanted to do, because I think it would have been much fun. Unfortunately, yeah, the end of the year has been quite hectic for myself, so I didn't manage to organize that, because yeah, that takes a bit more time, because of course I have to request the photos from you guys, and then also to manage the live, I have to learn how to share my screen and stuff like that. This was much more basic because I just have my webcam, but for that one, there was somewhat more preparation, so I decided to push that to next year. But it's definitely in the plan, and I promise that that's going to happen already in January. So look for the news. Of course, I will update everyone on Instagram via the stories, and also via the newsletter for the people who are not on Instagram to know how to submit the photos. Because yeah, also there I will have to make some way. I will have to make a selection because I receive way too many requests for feedback. So I will have to find a way. Nice to hear. So I keep waiting. Yeah, apologies for keep you waiting, but I promise you it will be worth it, and we will have much fun reviewing photos together live. All right, guys. Thank you so much for staying. Again, I enjoyed. I hope that you enjoyed only, I don't know, 50% of how much I enjoyed it. If you have any other question, just message me on Instagram, or answer to the newsletter. And I'll see you for next live then. Maybe you will be there again. Thank you, guys. Enjoy the rest of the evening, night, day, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thank you again, and let's keep photographing birds. Bye, guys.